I hadn't planned on going out that night. It had been raining since the afternoon, one of those slow, gray drizzles that made everything look older and sadder. I'd just finished a double shift at the distribution center. My back ached and my fingers were cracked open from the dry air inside the warehouse. I remembered I hadn't eaten since noon, and even that had just been a vending machine burrito. I was starving, exhausted, and not ready to face the silence of my apartment. I took the long way home through San Ayor's back streets, a working-class suburb just outside Portland. My windshield wipers beat slowly, struggling to keep the blurry orange glow of the street lights from melting into everything. Before I made the turn, I saw the Jollibee sign. It was glowing red and yellow in the fog like a lighthouse, or maybe a warning flare. It had opened a few months ago, and I'd kept meaning to try it. It reminded me of family trips when I was younger. My mom used to bring home their spaghetti and chicken when things were going okay. I pulled into the lot. Only 3 other cars were there. I remember that detail clearly. I remember the feel of the rain on my shoulders as I jogged toward the door, the sudden rush of warmth and fried food when I stepped inside. It smelled like grease and sugar. The place was empty except for a woman mopping near the soda machine, one teenage cashier at the register, and another customer sitting alone in the far corner by the windows. He caught my eye for a second. Tall, older than me, maybe late 40s. He was wearing a dark green coat that looked too big for him and a knitted hat with a huge, empty-looking dome on top. At the time, I thought he might have had headphones underneath, or maybe he just liked weird hats. But there was something else. He wasn't eating, he wasn't drinking, he was just sitting. His hands were flat on the table, palms down, like he was waiting, but not for food, for something else. I stepped up to the counter. The cashier was maybe 16, with blonde streaks in her hair and a pimple just above her lip. She gave me a tired smile. "Welcome to Jollibee. What can I get you tonight?" "Just a chicken joy meal, spaghetti and a pineapple juice." "That for here?" "Yeah, for here." She punched it in, took my card, gave me a receipt, and gestured toward the seats. "We'll bring it out in a few. Just sit anywhere." I thanked her and sat at the opposite end of the room, diagonally from the man in the hat. I didn't want to stare, but he was hard to ignore. He hadn't moved, not even blinked. The woman mopping looked at him once, and immediately looked away. I got the sense that she didn't want to interact with him. My phone was dead. I'd forgotten to charge it during work. So I just sat there, watched the raindrops slide down the window, thought about tomorrow, thought about bills, and how I'd just barely made rent this month, and how I couldn't remember the last time I ate at a table with someone else. About 3 minutes later, the girl brought over my food. "Enjoy," she said with a quick smile before retreating behind the counter again. I unwrapped the meal, took a bite of chicken, and tried to push away the low throb of a headache starting behind my eyes. That's when I noticed the man had stood up. He moved slowly, painfully so. His arms hung at his sides like they were too heavy. His steps were deliberate, like each one required thought. He wasn't walking toward the counter or the door. He was walking toward the hallway that led to the restrooms. I don't know why I watched him so closely. Maybe because he was the only thing moving in that weird, sleepy restaurant. Or maybe some part of me already knew something wasn't right. He paused at the hallway entrance and stood there perfectly still for maybe 15 seconds. Then, without looking around, he walked down the hallway, disappearing from view. I remember this part clearly, the sudden shift in atmosphere, like a rubber band snapping. The room felt wrong, like the pressure had changed. Even the girl behind the counter glanced up from her phone and frowned. She looked at the mop lady and whispered something. The next part happened so fast, I still question whether I remember it right. A loud, sharp bang, followed by something wet, a splatter, then a second of silence, then screaming. The girl screamed first, then the mop lady. I didn't scream. I think I froze for a full second. I didn't even connect the sound with what it was. My brain tried to make it something else. A dropped tray, maybe someone had fallen, but then I saw the blood. It trickled out from the hallway, a long red smear cutting across the beige tile. And in the next moment, a man's body fell halfway into view, face down, one arm curled unnaturally beneath him. His hat had come off. Something glistened near his head. I didn't need to go closer to know. I dropped my fork. My appetite vanished. The cashier ran toward the kitchen, yelling. The mop lady dropped the handle and backed into a wall, whispering, "Oh God, oh God." I stood up, legs shaky, and looked around like someone else might do something, like someone might take control. No one did. I was the one who called 911. The call itself felt surreal, like I was giving a report from a different dimension. There's been a shooting, a man. He shot himself at Jollibee, San Amador location, just off Pine and 34th. Is he breathing? I don't think so. Are there any other injuries? No, just him. Stay on the line. I did. For the next 5 minutes, I stood there trying not to look at the blood. It kept spreading. One of the managers finally emerged from the back, his face white as paper. He locked the front doors and ushered us to the far side of the restaurant. The cops arrived 7 minutes later. Then paramedics, then detectives. They questioned everyone, first the employees, then me. I told them everything, the coat, the hat, how he stood at the bathroom door for a while before walking in, how I didn't see the moment it happened but heard the shot. One officer, a woman named Reyes, asked me twice if I saw anyone else approach him. I said no. She wrote that down tight-lipped. An older woman in the parking lot, I guess she'd pulled up after it happened, was telling an officer that she saw someone suspicious running out the back. There's no back exit, the officer told her. Just a locked fire door. Nobody went through it. I don't know, the woman said. That man looked jumpy, the one who was eating. She meant me. It hit me like a punch to the stomach. I'd just witnessed something that would already haunt me forever, and now a stranger was implying I might have had something to do with it. Thankfully, the police didn't take her seriously. Reyes later apologized for the implication. There's no evidence of foul play. She told me quietly. The gun was registered to him. We're ruling it a suicide. They found a note in his coat pocket. I didn't see it, but I heard one of the detectives mention it had been typed. Just a single paragraph, something about being tired, having nowhere left to go, wanting it to be seen. That line stuck with me. Wanting it to be seen. I still don't know why he picked that place, that time. Maybe it was the warmth. Maybe he just didn't want to die alone, but I was there, and now I can't go anywhere public without feeling like it could happen again. I flinch when I hear loud noises in restaurants. I eat at home now alone. People told me it wasn't my trauma, that I didn't know him, didn't lose him. But they're wrong. When you see someone die that close, when you watch them walk toward their final moment quietly, slowly, without a single person stopping them, it stays. It sticks to the back of your eyes, your ears. It finds a home in your dreams. I think about that man often. I wonder who he was. I wonder what broke him. I wonder if anyone missed him. His name was Lucas Morin. I learned that from the news article 3 days later. No family came forward, no obituary, just one quiet man, one rainy night, one final decision, and one stranger eating dinner. I'll never forget it. I never thought a simple stop for chicken and fries could end with me bleeding in the backseat of my girlfriend's car, screaming for her to drive faster. Let me back up. I'm 19. My name's Ethan Russell. And last summer, my girlfriend Tessa and I decided to take a road trip from our small town in Indiana to her grandparents' house in Mississippi. 10 hours on the road, nothing but podcasts, gas stations, and the hum of highway tires. Her grandparents live near the Gulf Coast, a little beach town that feels frozen in time. We'd planned to stay for a couple of weeks. Some sun, a little swimming, maybe just getting away from the world before school started back up. We were 5 hours into the drive when I needed to stop again. I know it's dumb, but I drink water like a maniac. I always have. Constant hydration. I guess it's a habit I picked up from my track coach, who said, if you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. And yeah, it means I have to pee constantly, which annoyed Tessa a bit. But she always used my pit stops to sneak cigarettes or buy some snacks. She doesn't like driving either, so I think deep down she didn't mind the extra brakes. That particular stop was just off I-55, somewhere between Memphis and Jackson, one of those cookie-cutter highway plazas with a gas station, a Jollibee, and a rundown gift shop that smelled like old cardboard and sunscreen. I picked the stop because I'd never eaten at Jollibee before. Tessa was skeptical. She's more of a chick, Phil, a girl, but I'd heard about it online and figured it was worth trying once. That decision changed everything. We pulled into the parking lot around 3:40 p.m. The sun was brutal, a thick, heavy heat that clung to your skin. I made a beeline to the restroom while Tessie lit a cigarette by the car. She doesn't like people seeing her smoke, says it makes her feel trashy, even though she smokes more than anyone I know. When I got out of the restroom and we walked into Jollibee, the place was nearly empty except for a young couple with a toddler and an old man sitting alone near the back. The fluorescent lights gave everything a kind of sterile, artificial look, but the smell of fried food made my stomach growl. We ordered our food, chicken joy for me, a burger steak for Tessa, and picked a booth near the window. I didn't notice the guy right away. It wasn't until we were halfway through our meal that he moved. Not toward the trash cans, not toward the drink machine, but toward us. He sat down at the booth directly beside ours, not across from us, not diagonally, right beside us, too close. Tessa and I looked at each other, confused. "Hey there," he said, smiling. "You two from around here?" His voice was off, like someone doing a bad impression of friendliness. Tessa answered before I could stop her. "Nah, we're just driving through." I shot her a look. She didn't catch it. "Where to?" he asked. "Mississippi, long drive," she said casually, wiping her hands with a napkin. "Staying with family." I said nothing and just stared at this man. He was older, maybe mid-50s, with a long, patchy beard and a weathered face that looked like it hadn't smiled genuinely in years. His shirt was a faded navy flannel, sleeves rolled up, arms covered in strange bruises and little scabbed cuts. He didn't have any food in front of him. No drink, no receipt, nothing. "Nice," he said. "I'm headed down that way, too. Small world, huh?" He chuckled. That's when I noticed his boots were untied and muddy. His pants were stiff with what looked like dried mud or something else. He didn't have a wallet, no keys, no bag, no phone. Who goes to a rest stop with no bags? I finally spoke up. You traveling alone?" His eyes lingered on me too long before answering. "Always." I felt my skin crawl. We got out of there as fast as we could without making a scene. Tessa was still brushing crumbs off her lap as we got into the car. "Babe, you good?" she asked. "I don't like that guy. He was weird." "Yeah, but probably just lonely." "No," I said, starting the engine. "He didn't have anything on him. No car keys, no drink. Who sits in Jollibee with no food? Maybe he was waiting for someone." I didn't respond. I just pulled out of the parking lot and got back on the highway. 10 minutes later, I looked in the rear-view mirror and saw the same man behind the wheel of a white GMC pickup. "You've got to be kidding me," I muttered. Tessa leaned over. "What?" I pointed. "That's him. That's the guy." "No way. That can't be. He didn't even have car keys." "Then how the hell is he driving right behind us?" I sped up. 10 over, 15 over. He kept up. I changed lanes. "So did he. I told you," I said, voice rising. "He's following us." Tessa was pale now. Okay, what do? We drive fast, and if he keeps tailing, we call the cops." We stayed on the highway for another 25 minutes. I took random exits, switched lanes again and again. He followed every time. He kept back just enough to make it hard to prove, but never disappeared. At one point, I pulled off into a Chevron station, pretending to need gas. He pulled in, too, but parked across the lot facing us. That was the last straw. Tessa wanted to stop at another rest stop just to see if he followed. I told her she was nuts, but I also knew if we didn't get proof, no one would believe us, so I agreed. Big mistake. We pulled into a rest area just as the sun dipped beneath the tree line, gold light washing over everything like honey. And sure enough, 2 minutes later, the white GMC pulled in behind us, parked 3 spots down, engine still running. My hands were sweating. My heart was hammering in my chest. I grabbed the tire iron from under the seat and stepped out. "Ethan," Tessa warned, "I'm not going to wait for him to come to us." I walked straight toward his truck. He got out slowly, same flannel, same smile. "You sure you want to do this, son?" he said, almost laughing. "You've been following us for over an hour." I snapped. "Why?" He pulled something from his belt. "A hunting knife, long, curved. No reason," he said. "Just seemed like a fun day." Then he lunged. I swung the tire iron hard, caught him in the shoulder, but he was fast. Way faster than I expected. The knife slashed across my back. Pain seared through me like fire, but adrenaline is a hell of a drug. I tackled him. We went down hard, and I started swinging. Elbow, tire iron, fist. I didn't stop until his head hit the pavement, and he stopped moving. I stood bleeding, shaking. "Tessa," I yelled. She sprinted from the car, phone in hand. "Hospital. Now." They said I got lucky, that the knife missed anything major, that if I'd hesitated even 5 more seconds, he might have gutted me. The police found the man unconscious in the rest stop parking lot. No ID, no plates on the GMC. He wasn't in any system. He was still in a coma, the last I heard. They think he might have been living out of that truck for months. A drifter, maybe worse. The weirdest part, they found a folded-up photo in the truck's glove box. A blurry Polaroid of a couple sitting outside a Jollibee, young, smiling. It wasn't us, but it could have been. They looked just like us. I always thought nothing bad could ever happen at a place like Jollibee. It wasn't just the food, though. I'll admit I had a soft spot for the Jolly Spaghetti and Chicken Joy. It was the feeling of it. The bright red walls, the cartoon bee mascot, the cozy booths where my friends and I would crash after a long day. Something about that place always made it feel like a little safe pocket of warmth in an otherwise boring New Jersey suburb. My name is Isabel. I'm 17. I live with my mom in a small rental house just off Route 18. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I did yoga with 3 of my best friends, Rachel, Amber, and Lee, in Amber's garage. Nothing formal, just YouTube videos and mats we bought from Target. It was more about being together than the actual yoga. We'd sweat, laugh, half-ass the poses, and then immediately undo all the health benefits by driving 10 minutes over to the Jollibee on Marlton Avenue. It became our ritual, 3 days a week like clockwork. We were regulars, so regular, in fact, that the woman who always worked the register, Miss Cynthia, would have our orders ready by the time we reached the counter. But then he started working there. We didn't know his name, no name tag, no friendly greeting like the others gave. He was new, tall with pasty skin and a receding hairline, even though he looked maybe mid-20s. His eyes were huge and didn't seem to blink ever. They kind of bulged out like a frog's. The way he moved bothered me, too. Jittery, sharp, too fast, like his limbs were on fast forward, while the rest of the world moved normal speed. I first noticed him about 3 months ago. I was at the counter waiting for my card to process when I spotted him in the back near the fryer. He had his back to me, standing totally still like a statue. I was staring, not even really realizing I was, just trying to place where I'd seen him before or why something about him was so off. Then, without warning, he spun around all in one motion, like a machine. His huge eyes locked right onto mine. It startled me so much I flinched and looked away, but even from the corner of my eye, I could tell he didn't look away. He just kept watching me, staring. He gives me the creeps," Rachel muttered later as we sat down at our usual corner booth. "You noticed him too?" I asked, surprised. Yeah, he was watching me when I was filling up my Coke. Like full-on watching, didn't even try to be sneaky about it. "Same," Lee added. "I went to grab ketchup, and he was just standing by the napkin dispenser, doing nothing. Just standing." We joked about it, calling him Froggy because of the eyes. It made us feel a little better, laughing about it, but deep down we all felt the same unease. For a few weeks, nothing truly happened. He was just there, watching, moving weird. Sometimes he'd smile, a tight, unnatural curl of the lips that didn't match his eyes at all. I remember once Lee said something about his smile looking like he was practicing how humans do it. I thought that summed it up perfectly. We kept going back because what were we supposed to do? Avoid a fast food place because some guy was a little weird. We'd go during daylight in a group, stay alert. We figured it was harmless. Then came the Friday. It was a teacher work day, so we had no school. We met earlier than usual for yoga, around 11:00 a.m., and finished up before noon. Everyone was in a good mood. The sun was out. Amber had just gotten her driver's license and drove us all there in her mom's minivan. Jollibee was almost empty when we arrived. No one in the drive-through. No other customers inside except for one guy eating alone near the window. It should have been a red flag right then. Miss Cynthia wasn't at the register that day. Instead, it was Froggy. We all kind of paused, exchanged a glance, but none of us wanted to be rude or dramatic. So we ordered. I got my usual 10-piece chicken joy nuggets, fries, and a pineapple quencher. He didn't say a word while taking our order, just typed it in, stared at us the whole time, blinking maybe once. "Where's Miss Cynthia today?" Amber asked, trying to fill the silence. "Off," Froggy replied in a voice that sounded like it scraped its way out of his throat. We paid and went to sit. I watched him disappear into the back, and then we waited and waited. 15 minutes went by. Not a single other order was called out. No sounds of cooking, no beeping timers, just silence from behind the counter. "Why is it taking so long?" Lee asked. "They're not even busy." Rachel said, leaning back in the booth. "Maybe we should just go," Amber suggested. But just as we were getting up, Froggy came back with our trays. He handed them out wordlessly, staring at me the longest. Something felt wrong. We sat down again. I took a sip of my drink, then reached for my fries, hot and crispy as usual. But when I opened the nugget box, my stomach twisted. There was something on them. At first, I thought it was mayonnaise or maybe a sauce that leaked in by accident, but it didn't smell like mayo. It didn't smell like anything I recognized. It looked stringy, slightly yellow, almost gelatinous. "What the hell is that?" Rachel said, peering over. I hesitated. I don't know. I didn't order any sauce. Amber leaned in. Her face went pale. Dude, that's not sauce." "What do you mean? That freak put something on it," she whispered. Lee stood up, gagging. "I'm going to puke." That's when the full wave of realization hit. The texture, the smell, the timing. Froggy had vanished for too long. There'd been no other customers, no distractions, just us. And now this. I shoved the tray away and stood up, my whole body shaking. "We need to go, now." We rushed outside. I didn't look back, but Amber did, and she swore Froggy was watching us from the kitchen window, his expression blank, his hands resting calmly on the glass. We piled into the car, still stunned, silent. Only once we were several blocks away did anyone speak. "What the hell was on your nuggets?" Rachel asked, her voice shaky. I didn't answer right away. I couldn't, because deep down I already knew, and the thought made my skin crawl. "We didn't report it. We didn't go to the cops or tell the manager. We didn't know what we'd say. We think a weird guy at Jollibee jizzed on our food. There was no proof, no photos. We'd thrown it all away, too horrified to keep any of it. We just stopped going. Amber started driving to a different town after yoga where there was a Wendy's. It wasn't the same, but none of us wanted to go back. 2 weeks later, I got a message from Olivia, the flaky friend who rarely joined yoga. "Hey, did something happen at the Jollibee on Marlton? I went today and the cops were there." My stomach dropped. I texted back immediately, "What happened?" She sent a voice message. I asked the lady at the counter, and she just said there was a staff incident, but I saw a guy in a cop car. I think it was that pale one with the eyes. You know who I mean. I did. I didn't ask any more questions. I didn't want to know what they found. I haven't eaten fast food since. I wish I had taken a photo. I wish I had reported him. But in the moment, the fear took over, and when fear grabs you like that, it's hard to think clearly. Even now, months later, I still can't eat chicken nuggets, and I don't think I ever will again. I was 19 when everything sort of fell apart for me. I had worked hard in high school, done all the right things, or at least I thought I had. I got into college out of state, and for a while it felt like I had finally escaped the small town vacuum that so many of us in Maryville got sucked into. But then a couple of months in, things went wrong. I won't get into all the details, but it had to do with missing classes, failing a couple of them, and a conduct violation that frankly I was too embarrassed to even explain to my parents. They were disappointed, maybe more than I was. But the worst part, I had no one to blame but myself. So there I was, back in Merivale, sleeping in my childhood bedroom with peeling glowin', the dark stars still on the ceiling. I got a job at the local Jollibee because it was the only place hiring with flexible hours. I worked night shifts mostly. It was one of the few 24-hour spots in town besides the gas station and a hospital 20 minutes out. At first, I was just numb. Go to work, come home, sleep, avoid eye contact with my parents during dinner, repeat. It was mechanical, but over time, I got used to the rhythm of things. There were only a few of us who worked the graveyard shift. Me, Kendra, my closest friend at work, an older guy named Ramon who barely spoke, and our shift manager, Luke, who was only 2 years older than me but took his job like he was running a Fortune 500 company. Anyway, the first weird thing that ever happened to me there involved a regular customer, an old man who we eventually started calling Bathrobe Benny. No one knew his real name. He came in 4 or 5 times a day, every single day, always alone, always in the same filthy off-white bathrobe. Underneath it, he wore a thin, see-through white t-shirt, sometimes stained yellow under the arms. His shoes were crusted over Nikes that looked like they'd survived a flood. Wherever he walked, he left behind bits of mud, like he lived in a swamp somewhere. Despite all that, he was polite. Never yelled, never cursed, always asked for extra gravy with his chicken joy and a small coffee, black. He paid in crumpled bills or exact change, usually coins that smelled like rust. The guy was gross, but not dangerous. We joked about him. It was our way of making the hours pass. Kendra used to do this impression of him ordering that had us crying, laughing in the back kitchen. He probably lives in the woods. I once said, scrubbing the fry station, or in the dumpster behind the pharmacy. Kendra replied, snorting, "You know he's not paying rent." But then he just stopped coming. At first, we didn't think much of it. Maybe he was sick. Maybe someone finally convinced him to wear real clothes. But a few days went by, then a week. "Have you seen Bathrobe Benny?" I asked Kendra on a slow night, sipping watered-down pineapple juice. "Nope," she said. "Weird, right?" That night, she texted me at 2:00 in the morning. I was just about to fall asleep when my phone lit up. "Yo, you awake? I found him. Check this out." Link. I clicked the link. It was a mugshot from the Merivale County Inmate Database. And there he was, still in his bathrobe, hair wild, eyes glassy. Arrested, drug charges, possession with intent to distribute, multiple counts. I blinked at the screen. The man who came in for Jollibee rice meals and black coffee every day had been running drugs. The whole thing was surreal. But honestly, that wasn't the part that messed me up the most. That came a few months later. It was early spring, still cold enough at night that you could see your breath if you stepped outside. The air always smelled like fryer grease mixed with exhaust fumes. That night, it was just me, Kendra, and Ramon. Luke had called out, said he was throwing up, and corporate didn't care enough to send a replacement. The store was dead. No one in the drive-through, no customers inside. Merivale rolled up its sidewalks early, and midnight at Jollibee usually meant standing around trying not to fall asleep. Around 12:30 a.m., I remembered the garbage hadn't been taken out from the side dining area. There was this one can hidden behind a booth where nobody really sat, and we always forgot about it. "I'll grab the trash," I said. Kendra nodded, distracted on her phone. Ramon was mopping the kitchen floor, earbuds in, humming something off-key. I grabbed a pair of gloves and went to the bin. Sure enough, it was full, overflowing, actually. 2 bags heavy with leftover rice and wrappers. Too heavy to carry both at once, so I took one, walked around the back toward the dumpster behind the building. The night air bit at my arms. I had forgotten my hoodie inside. I hoisted the bag into the dumpster with a little too much flair and felt something tweak in my back. Idiot, I muttered to myself. I walked back inside, rubbed my lower back for a second, and grabbed the second bag. Then I went out again. What happened next never left me. I was maybe 10 feet from the dumpster when I saw it. A small shape on the ground, something that hadn't been there just minutes ago. At first, I thought it was a pile of trash, but as I got closer, I froze. It was a puppy, a mutilated one. Its fur was dirty, matted with blood. Its snout, God, I can't even describe it. It had been sliced clean off, not torn, cut. It wasn't breathing. Its body lay curled, stiff, its mouth open, tongue hanging out unnaturally. I dropped the bag I was carrying. It hit the pavement with a thud. My mind couldn't make sense of what I was looking at. It wasn't just the horror of seeing a dead animal, it was how it got there. It hadn't been there 5 minutes ago. That meant someone had put it there while I was inside. I looked around, suddenly hyper, aware of how dark it was. No movement, no voices, no cars, just cold air and shadows. I backed away slowly, heart pounding in my throat. Then I turned and sprinted inside. What the hell is wrong with you? Kendra asked as I slammed the back door behind me, panting. There's a dead dog. I gasped. Outside, by the dumpster, someone cut its face off. Kendra blinked. What? She followed me outside, Ramon trailing behind her, mop still in hand. When they saw it, both of them went pale. We called the police. They came eventually, took a few photos, asked a few questions. No cameras in the back. We told them the only security we had was facing the drive-through. They didn't seem to take it seriously. Probably just a sick prank. One of the officers said, stray animal maybe, but I knew. Someone had watched me, waited for me to go back inside, then placed that thing out there where I'd be sure to find it. Why? What kind of person does that? After that night, I couldn't focus. I started showing up late. I flinched every time someone walked through the door. Kendra tried to play it off. Some freak with a taxidermy hobby. She said, just a one-time thing. But it wasn't. 2 weeks later, someone left a black trash bag near the dumpster. It wasn't ours. We'd cleared everything already that night. Inside were bones, small ones, cleaned. The cops came again. They were less patient this time. No evidence of a crime, they said, but I quit 2 days after that. I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't walk out to the dumpster without feeling eyes on me. Couldn't sit in that quiet store at 2:00 a.m. without imagining someone watching through the dark windows. I got a job at a bakery downtown after that. Daylight hours, windows, people. I still think about Jollibee sometimes, about Bathrobe Benny, about the puppy, about how it was never about the job. It was about the place, the timing, the way you can think you're safe because you're inside under fluorescent lights and a locked door. But someone out there was watching me, and I'll never know why or what they wanted. It started with a simple house. I'm Ian, 23, and I live with my fiancée, Lily, in a small, quiet town in Indiana. We're both recent college graduates, me with a degree in software development, her in marketing. We had a decent apartment close to our jobs, but we were looking for something more permanent. We're both old souls like that, saving early, settling early, no late night partying or wild road trips. Our fun came from movie marathons, late night drives, and impulse food runs to places like Jollibee, which recently opened in town. Lily's grandmother, Darlene, had inherited a house from her brother, who passed the year before. The place had sat empty ever since. No one in the family wanted to deal with it. It needed a lot of cosmetic work. Peeling paint, outdated flooring, questionable plumbing. But the bones were good. After a few dinners and heartfelt talks, Darlene offered us the home for a price so low it almost felt criminal. She told us it was a way to give Lily a good start. We were beyond grateful. There was just one catch: Carla. Carla is Lily's aunt, 50, bitter, and almost always drunk. Her husband died young, and she never really recovered. She lives in a Section 8 apartment with her 2 adult sons, Eric and Caleb, who, despite being 25 and 20, have never held steady jobs. Rumors swirled about drug use, but we didn't pry. We knew enough to stay away. When word spread about the house, things got weird. Carla called Darlene, yelling about playing favorites and stealing what's ours. It was confusing because they hadn't shown any interest in the property until they realized someone else wanted it. Eric offered to look after the house, but we knew that meant squatters or worse. We politely declined. We started working on the house on weekends, stripping wallpaper, scrubbing years of grime, patching drywall. I worked remotely, so I was often there alone during the week. It felt peaceful until it didn't. One Tuesday morning, I walked to the corner store to grab a lemonade. The house was on a quiet street, lined with elderly neighbors who rarely came out except to fetch mail. I was only gone 10 minutes. As I turned the corner back to the house, I saw someone crouched at the back door. I slowed, hard hammering. The figure looked familiar. Eric. I called. He spun around, clearly startled. He tried to act casual, stuffing something in his hoodie pocket. His face was flush. "Oh, thought I saw a weird car out front." He said, "That's mine." "Oh, right, looks like a cop car." He laughed awkwardly. I didn't laugh. He muttered something under his breath and walked off, fists clenched at his sides. I stayed on the porch until he was out of sight. I told Lily that night. She wasn't surprised. "I told you they wouldn't let it go," she said, rubbing her temples. "They feel entitled to everything." The next 2 weeks were quiet. No sightings, no weird phone calls. We started sleeping a little easier again. That peace shattered last Friday. It was supposed to be a quick date, cheap food, a break from paint fumes and dust. We chose Jollibee. Nostalgic, affordable, and their spaghetti underrated, it was mostly empty when we arrived, save for a few kids playing in the indoor ball pit area. I know it sounds immature, but Lily and I have this tradition. Every time we go somewhere with a ball pit, we spend 5 minutes in it, no exceptions. It started as a joke in college and just stuck. We were laughing, tossing red and blue balls at each other like overgrown kids. I was leaning back, about to jokingly drown in the balls, when I saw someone walk in through the glass doors. Eric. He locked eyes with me immediately. Not a glance, a stare. His face was pale, mouth slightly open, and he walked like he wasn't entirely sure where his feet were landing. His eyes never left us. Lily followed my gaze. "Oh, God," she whispered. Eric didn't order food. He didn't speak to anyone. He walked straight to the ball pit. He pulled something from his pocket. My first thought, a gun. My second, a knife. I panicked. He dove into the pit toward me. I didn't wait. As he came down, I punched him hard in the face. He groaned but kept swinging. His knee landed in my ribs, but I twisted and got on top of him. "You psycho!" I shouted. "What are you doing?" He shrieked. "Get off, you're killing me." I didn't care. Adrenaline took over. I hit him again and again. Lily's voice cut through the noise. "Ian, stop, please." That snapped me out of it. I stood panting. Eric was holding his nose, blood mixing with the plastic balls. Parents were grabbing their kids and backing away. Eric stumbled out of the pit, holding his side. "I'm calling the cops. You assaulted me," he screamed, staggering toward the exit. "You're insane," I growled. "You came at me. There are witnesses." He froze, realized the truth in my words, and ran out to his rusted SUV. Tires squealed as he fled. We filed police reports. A kind officer named Simmons reviewed security footage and took statements. He said it was clear Eric initiated everything. I asked about protection orders. "Restraining orders are absolutely an option," he said, "and I recommend it." So we filed for them against Carla, Eric, and Caleb. The judge approved them. 3 weeks, no contact, automatically renewable upon court review. Just like that, it stopped. They vanished. We finished renovating the house last month, moved in officially 2 weeks ago, but I still check the locks every night. I still jump at shadows near the windows. The scariest part isn't the punch I threw or the look in Eric's eyes as he lunged. It's knowing that people don't always need a reason. They don't need a plan. Sometimes it's just resentment, entitlement, jealousy with nowhere else to go. I keep a bat under the bed now. We installed cameras around the porch and back entrance. And even though it's quiet again, I'm not sure peace ever fully returns after someone tries to hurt you in a damn Jollibee ball pit. Because now I know danger doesn't always come with a warning. Sometimes it walks through the door smiling while the world spins like nothing happened. I was 11 when it happened. It's been almost 9 years now, and I still can't bring myself to even look at a Jollibee. Just hearing the name makes my stomach tighten. That sounds ridiculous, I know. It's just a fast food place. Fried chicken, burgers, spaghetti. What could possibly be scary about a place where kids celebrate birthdays and families laugh over cheap meals? But what happened to me and my younger cousin that night changed the way I see everything? Restaurants, people, even the feeling of safe. Because no matter how well lit a place is or how familiar, evil doesn't care. It walks in like it belongs there. It smiles like anyone else. And sometimes it follows you home. Back then, my mom worked evenings at a call center downtown in Jacksonville, Florida. We lived just outside the city in a quiet, mostly Filipino neighborhood where everyone sort of knew each other. Since my dad wasn't in the picture, I usually stayed with my aunt and uncle after school. My cousin Jasmine was a year younger than me. We were close, not quite like siblings, but close enough to bicker like them. She had a Nintendo DS she never let me touch unless she was in a good mood. I had an obsession with ketchup packets I used to sneak into my pockets from every fast food place we went to. My aunt was kind, strict in that loving Filipino mom way. No cursing, no soda, no YouTube after 8:00 p.m. But one Friday, she had to attend an emergency shift at the hospital where she worked as a night nurse. My uncle was out of town for a work conference that left Jasmine and me with her oldest daughter, Christine, our 19-year-old babysitter for the night. Christine was cool, way cooler than us. She dyed her hair red and drove an old Civic with one missing hubcap. She wore platform shoes and smelled like bubble gum and hair dye. When my aunt handed her a $1.20 bill and said, "Just feed them something simple," Christine immediately smiled and said, "We'll go to Jollibee." I can still remember Jasmine and me high-fiving. Jollibee meant fried chicken. Jollibee meant peach mango pies. Jollibee meant freedom. The nearest Jollibee was about 15 minutes away, near a strip mall with a Big Lots, a nail salon, and a vape shop that constantly had a going out of business sign on the window. We pulled into the parking lot around 7:40 p.m. I remember because the sun was just dipping low enough that the sky turned that hazy blue-gray. The air was humid but not unbearable. It was Florida after all. Inside, it was the usual, bright lighting, walls covered in cartoonish red and yellow murals, kids laughing, adults scrolling on their phones. Christine ordered for us 2 chicken joy meals with rice and gravy, a spaghetti with hot dog slices, and 3 peach mango pies. She even got us pineapple juice instead of water. We sat at a booth near the window, close enough to see Christine's car. It was one of those evenings that felt perfect. Jasmine and I dipped everything into gravy, made ketchup smiley faces on our plates, and swapped stories about who had the strictest mom rules. Christine mostly scrolled through her phone, laughing at her messages, but occasionally joining in our jokes. I wish I could freeze time in that moment, just for 5 more minutes, because everything after that felt like falling down a steep, dark hill you can't stop rolling down. I noticed him first. He was tall, wiry. He looked maybe mid-30s, but had this way about him, like he was older but trying hard not to look it. He wore a yellow polo shirt that clung awkwardly to his skinny frame and had on dark jeans that were too tight. But what caught me the most was his eyes. Even from across the restaurant, they looked hungry and not for food. At first, I thought he was staring at Christine. Guys stared at her a lot. But after a minute, I realized he wasn't looking at her. He was looking at me. I told myself I was imagining it. I looked away, then back, still staring. I nudged Jasmine and whispered, "That guy's being weird." She turned and peeked at you. "He's ugly." "SHH," I hissed. Christine looked up from her phone. "What's going on?" I hesitated, then whispered, "That guy's staring at us." Christine turned casually, gave a glance, then rolled her eyes. "Ignore him. Some people are just creeps." But even as she said it, she slid into the seat a little more protectively and glanced at the door. It was subtle, but I noticed it. We finished eating quickly after that. The atmosphere had shifted. The guy hadn't ordered anything. He just stood near the condiments counter, pretending to read the menu, still glancing over, still watching. When we got up to leave, Christine tossed the trash, grabbed our leftovers, and said, "Okay, let's move fast, straight to the car, no dawdling." We stepped outside into the dusky night. The street lamps buzzed overhead. As we walked toward the Civic, I looked back, and my blood turned cold. He was following us. Christine noticed, too. "Get in, fast." She unlocked the car, shoved Jasmine into the back seat, and ordered me into the passenger seat. I fumbled with my seat belt, hands shaking. I heard footsteps, quick ones. Christine slammed her door shut just as he reached the driver's side. He tried the handle, locked. He tapped on the glass and said something, but we couldn't hear. Christine started the car. He tried the back door. Jasmine screamed. Christine floored it. We peeled out of the parking lot and onto the road, the tires squealing as we turned. I was shaking, gripping the seatbelt. Christine muttered, "Jesus Christ," over and over under her breath. In the mirror, I saw the man running back toward the strip mall. At first, I thought he was giving up. Then he got into a car, a dark green Buick, old and boxy. It had been parked in the row behind us. I hadn't noticed it earlier. "He's following," I said. "I know." Christine replied, her voice tight. "We didn't go home." Christine took a weird route, zigzagging through streets. She turned off her headlights at one point. We ended up in an unfamiliar part of the city near a tire shop and some auto garages. The Buick was still behind us, 3 car lengths back, always back. "Where are we going?" I asked. "The police station," she said. "It's about 10 more minutes." Jasmine was crying softly in the back seat. I turned around to try and comfort her, but I didn't know what to say. My own heart was pounding so loud it hurt my ears. We finally pulled into the police station parking lot. There were a few cruisers and a couple of officers standing near the entrance talking. Christine honked twice, long and loud. The Buick pulled in right behind us. I swear I saw the guy smile. Then he opened his door. He ran straight toward Christine's window. Christine screamed, threw the car into park, and opened her door to run. But before she could get out, one of the officers tackled the man to the ground. Everything after that blurred. Officers surrounded the car, told us to stay inside. One helped Christine out, guided her inside the station. Another helped Jasmine and me. They questioned us separately. Christine was shaking. Jasmine wouldn't stop crying. The man was cuffed and taken somewhere. Later, one of the officers told Christine that the guy was wanted for assault. He had a record, battery, stalking, even a possible connection to a missing girl a few cities over. He wasn't supposed to be in the county. He'd been living out of that Buick for weeks, sleeping behind stores, picking targets. He followed families, he followed kids. A week later, my aunt got a call from a state prosecutor. They wanted us to testify. Christine refused. My aunt backed her up. She didn't want our family involved. She didn't trust the system to keep us safe. We never found out what happened to him, whether he went to prison or if the other case stuck. Maybe he's locked up forever, maybe not. I do know this. He knew where we lived, because 3 days after it all happened, a green Buick drove slowly past our house, and then it never came back. I haven't been to Jollibee since. I never really liked eating out, not because I didn't enjoy fast food, but because I just didn't trust it. The grease, gaked trays, the same mop, water smell in every corner, the shady kids behind the counter pretending not to see hair in the fries. It all made me uneasy. But when you're 18, broke, and trying to survive your second semester of college with a 4-hour gap between classes on a Friday, sometimes Jollibee is the only place you can find comfort in. My name's Isaac, and back then I was just trying to stay afloat. I was the definition of a loner, commuting from a tiny town 45 minutes from campus, filming basic YouTube tech reviews in my bedroom, scraping together just enough money from AdSense and affiliate links to avoid flipping burgers. I lived with my mom and younger sister. My dad dipped when I was 10, and I didn't miss him, but I missed the stability. Every penny I made online helped me avoid having to pick up shifts at the gas station like most of the people I went to high school with. Fridays were hell. My first class started at 7:30 a.m., and my last one didn't end until nearly 4:00 p.m. I had long gaps in between, and driving home wasn't worth the gas. So I stayed, sat on campus benches, read, sometimes filmed voiceovers in my car. It was only February, barely a month into the semester, and I already hated my routine. But I knew if I dropped any of my classes, I'd fall behind on my plan to graduate early, so I stuck with it. That particular Friday, I remember it had rained earlier in the morning, and the pavement was still slick when I walked out of my last class. I was drained, hungry, and grumpy. I hadn't eaten since 6:00 a.m., and I didn't trust the cafeteria after I got food poisoning from a sketchy tuna melt last semester. A few students still braved the on-campus food court, but I wasn't one of them. So I drove down to Jollibee, the one tucked between a vape shop and an abandoned mattress warehouse about 10 minutes off campus. It was one of the few places I could tolerate. Greasy, sure, but familiar. Their spicy chicken and gravy rice had gotten me through more than one breakdown. I was planning to go through the drive-through, grab my food, and eat in the car while listening to a podcast on my phone. But when I pulled into the lot, I realized I needed to pee bad. I figured I'd just go inside, order my food at the counter, and use the restroom while they made it. The place wasn't too crowded. There was a family in the corner with a toddler screaming about spaghetti, 2 teen girls giggling in front of the soda fountain, and an older man quietly eating with earbuds in. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary at first. I ordered a chicken joy combo and asked to use the restroom while they prepped it. On my way back from the bathroom, I caught sight of something weird happening through the window. Two people, a guy and a girl, were standing next to a beat-up dark green Honda Civic parked in the back corner of the lot. It was already getting dusky outside, and their figures were backlit by the dim yellow glow of the Jollibee sign. At first, I thought they were just arguing, maybe a couple having a spat. I paused near the window to check if I was misreading it. The guy was tall, maybe 6'2", wearing a gray hoodie and black sweatpants. The girl was a lot smaller, maybe 5'0". She had long brown hair and was wearing a red flannel jacket, skinny jeans, and white sneakers. At first, it looked like she was trying to walk away from him, but every time she took a step back, he stepped forward. I could tell from her body language that she was nervous. Her arms were crossed like she was trying to shield herself. His hands kept reaching toward her, touching her wrist, grabbing her shoulder. It wasn't yelling, but the vibe was off. I know a lot of people would say, it's not your business, maybe they were a couple, maybe they were just having a bad day. Maybe she'd cheated on him, or he was being dramatic. But something about it didn't sit right with me. I moved closer to the window, pretending to look at the menu screen while I kept watching. Then I saw it. He grabbed both of her arms and shoved her back against the passenger side of the Civic. She didn't scream, but she looked like she was holding it in, like a scared animal trying not to provoke more aggression. I could feel my own chest tighten. I told myself I'd wait another minute just to see. Maybe someone else would step in. But then he opened the passenger door and shoved her inside the car. Like shoved, she stumbled backward, her legs folding awkwardly as she landed on the seat. Then he followed her in. That's when I heard her scream. It wasn't a long scream, more like a strangled yelp, but it was enough. I dropped the takeout bag I just picked up and bolted out. Front doors, I didn't have a plan. My heart was pounding so loud I couldn't think. I just knew that something horrible was about to happen in that car, and I was the only one close enough to stop it. As I approached, I could hear her muffled voice begging, panicked. The car was rocking slightly. I yanked open the rear door. Inside, the guy had pinned her down, one knee on the seat between her legs. His hoodie was halfway off, and his belt was already unbuckled. She was kicking at him weakly, trying to push him away. He turned wide-eyed when he saw me. For a second, I froze. Then I swung. I hit him in the shoulder, not hard enough to knock him down, but enough to get his attention. He shouted and scrambled to get out of the car, pushing past me. I braced for a fight. I thought he was going to come at me, but he didn't. Two other men had started walking over by then. One of them, an older Filipino guy with a delivery bag slung over his shoulder, the other a customer who'd been sitting inside. The attacker saw them approaching, cursed under his breath, and jumped into the driver's seat. He peeled out of the lot without even closing the rear door properly. I turned back to the girl. She was sitting in the back seat, sobbing. Her flannel was ripped at the collar, and her hands were shaking. "Are you okay?" I asked, crouching down. She nodded quickly, but her eyes were glassy. "Do you know him?" I asked again. She shook her head. "No, I don't. He just came up to me while I was walking to my car, asked me if I had a lighter. Then he said he liked my jacket. I tried to ignore him, but he wouldn't go away. He followed me across the lot and just started yelling that I owed him, that I was leading him on. I told him to back off, but her voice cracked. The older man who'd approached with the delivery bag pulled out his phone and called the cops. The other guy offered her a bottle of water from inside. I helped her climb out of the car, and she held onto my arm like I was her lifeline. When the police arrived, she gave her statement first. I followed after, describing what I saw and what I did. The whole thing felt surreal, like I was watching myself from the outside. The part that stuck with me, The car he drove off in, he'd left the license plate exposed. They caught him 2 days later. His name was Kyle Brennan, 23, previously charged with harassment in another county. He was out on probation. He was charged with attempted assault, battery, and unlawful restraint. The girl, her name was Emily, had to attend every hearing. I kept in touch with her for a few weeks afterward. She thanked me over and over again, but I kept telling her the same thing. I didn't do anything special. I just did what anyone should have done. But deep down, I knew not everyone would have. I still think about that day sometimes. How close it came to turning into something far worse. How many people might have seen something like that and walked away? Sometimes when I drive by that old Jollibee location, I remember the exact sound of the scream she made, how the red bee mascot on the sign kept smiling even as something dark and violent tried to unfold in its shadow. The world doesn't stop for evil, it just keeps serving chicken and spaghetti. But that day, I stopped it just long enough, and I hope if it ever happens again, someone else will too.